I think it goes back, I suppose, first to the point about the internal issues in an organisation. I mean, I remember, again, back in the late 1990s, when we did a great deal of soul searching about our audience numbers, the head of marketing, the head of press, and myself, who were the three people who had the most contact with audiences, probably in those days within the museum, asked ourselves the question, who are the priority audiences for each of us? And the head of marketing said, overseas tourists. Clear reason for that. They're at least 50%, if not more, of our visitors. The head of press said, people who shop at Harvey Nichols, a very high-end store in London, because they're high spenders, because they have an interest in design, etc. And I talked about schools and students and various educational audiences. What was immediately obvious to the three of us was that we had defined three completely different priority audiences, or groups of priority audiences in that. Now, if inside the organisation we didn't have any agreement about who our priorities were, there was no chance that a strategy for audience development could have any success. So one of the first things that we did then was to try to come up with a language for discussing audience that we could share. And what that led to was a complete reclassification of our audience definitions, because the marketing department used certain behavioural standard marketing characteristics, lifestyle characteristics. I was using educational world categories, and obviously maybe the press person was thinking about spending and levels of spending really on that. So we had to come up with a definition of audiences that we all three could use and could recognise, and it took us a year or two to do that. And one thing that we found was that there didn't seem to be a classification for audiences that cultural organisations had developed for our own purposes. We were always borrowing definitions of audience from other worlds, you know, government statistics and data that was done for the census, you know, classifying people by, in those days, their social class, and so on and so on. So we really had to kind of invent a classification system for ourselves, and then use that. But we did have to invent it, because without that we had no common language of audience.